freeze with the bottlenose dolphins. What are we seeing now?
So yesterday we've had an additional 3 dolphins, so that puts our total count to 9 in Sarasota County. We're starting to see a few of them strand a little further north than they were yesterday. We picked up 2 off of southern Siesta Key, one late last night, another this morning. In addition, we're still seeing more and more turtles. You know, we currently have several manatees on the beach on Anna Maria Island in a mating herd. We've taken about 15 calls in the last hour on that alone, and those animals are fine. So some of it is trying to tease out what's really animals in distress or carcass recovery compared to animals that might be there during red tide but aren't being affected by it just yet.
People want to know, why is this happening? I guess that's the number one question that I get. What's the best that you can answer that?
I mean, it's what happens when these animals are exposed to this long-going harmful alkalinose with red tide. So, you know, it's sort of works its way up the food web. Our dolphins are top apex predators. They're getting that bioaccumulation of the food web, so now we're starting to see it. So far, most of the dolphins 9 of the dolphins that we have in our partners catalog with the Sarasota Dolphin Research Program, the CZS partnership with us and Mote, Chicago Zoological Society, sorry, I've got it in my acronyms. We have 1 dolphin that they had a sighting of off of Venice Pier in 2016, but so far the rest of the animals that they've been able to look and review through their catalog have not matched the ones that we've seen. So we think these are animals that maybe normally living a little bit further offshore, you know, that 1 to 3 miles, so not animals we would always see from the beach.
But in general, do dolphins handle the red tide better? Is that why we're just now seeing the dolphins pop up? Because red tide's been in the area for at least, you know,
10 months.
For a while. Yeah.
For a while. This is pretty typical of events like this we've had in the past. I remember in 2004 there was a similar one that affected dolphins up on the panhandle of up near Panama City, and this was pretty typical. We kind of see it affect, you know, the fish, the birds, the turtles, the manatees. We actually haven't had a whole lot of bird sightings, or even when we're out on the beach, we're not seeing a lot of dead birds for some reason this year. But it's pretty typical about how it works its way up.
So why does it take dolphins so long to succumb to red tide?
Part of it's because they're apex predators, so they're eating at the top of the food web. You know, those brevetoxins we think kind of work their way up. And again, I'm not a brevetoxin expert. I focus on our wildlife, but I think it's just sort of the way this crazy convoluted matrix works. You know, they hit the fish. I mean, even when you go out to the beach, you know, one day you go out, it's all dead eels. The next day you see a bunch of dead horseshoe crabs. Like, I think it kind of just works its way through the system.
You know, where do you see this going? Do you see conditions getting worse? And you've asked for help, I understand.
Oh, absolutely. We have had so much help from our partners. I mean, I've had help from our local law enforcement, Venice PD, Longboat PD. The West Coast Inland Navigational District has had one of their employees out for the last 2 days, even delivering us dolphins. We have Florida Fish and Wildlife people here, Clearwater Marine Aquarium. I've got another team with a trailer and a truck on its way down from the University of Florida. So, I mean, we are very much a network. None of us can do this on our own. Like, we have to have our partners, and you know, we're 3 people in this program that respond 24 hours a day. So if it wasn't for our volunteers and our partners, we couldn't do it.
What is that coordination like?
You know, sometimes smartphones are your friends. Sometimes they can make things a little more difficult. It's, you know, we've all kind of been through these kind of events before as different institutions and agencies. So everybody's just really wanting to help. We try to make sure we're keeping everything coordinated with everybody so that we're not dropping the ball and missing an animal, or, you know, not letting the right people know. But it adds another layer of challenges. So, you know, there's been plenty of times I've been stopping to deglove in the middle of a dolphin to get people to other animals. So.
But how concerned are you at this point of what's coming next? Do you see conditions getting worse, and how, you know?
I mean, we're preparing for it to just continue, at least, if not get worse. I mean, yesterday it was 6 dolphins, today it was only 2. I don't know if that's good or bad. But we also have we had the one late last night. I mean, I got the call last night at 9:30. We didn't get back home until 1 o'clock this morning, and the phone started ringing at 6 with other dolphins on the beach. So, you know, I mean, we try to do the best work we can, learn as much from these occurrences as we can, and, you know, make sure we're thanking everybody, because we certainly couldn't do it without the help.
So you're planning for the worst?
Yeah, I mean, we're planning for the worst. We're not planning. We don't see an end in sight right now, so we're just trying to gear up and sort of rotate people in as we can so that, you know, some of us can get some sleep.
What's the concern for the future? I mean, dolphins in our area have been having pretty good couple of years with all the baby population that have been out there. What's the concern with these numbers and the deaths?
I mean, we're concerned. I feel like, you know, it might just be a matter of time before we start seeing more of our local residents that are here all the time in the bay and things start stranding. Again, what they saw previously through the work with not only Mote, but Chicago Zoological Society and the Sarasota Dolphin Research Program was like the last one that we had, I think that was this intense, was 2004, 2005. That didn't seem to hurt our local dolphins as much in that time and space. What we saw is the next, you know, the following year or so, we've got more and more animals that were stranding due to interactions with fishing gear, which we think was them looking for food.
How many of those dolphins that you recovered were actually resident dolphins or dolphins that have been tagged in Sarasota Bay?
None. And we have one, and a lot of them, we tell dolphins apart by their dorsal fins, and that the Sarasota Dolphin Research Program is amazing at that. The one dolphin that they matched to their catalog, they had one sighting 2 years ago off the Venice Fishing Pier, and that was the only picture we had of that dolphin. They go out 10 times a month and take pictures and try to get a good sense of who's in our area and when and where and who they're with. So, you know, if historically we got pretty lucky in 2005, 2006, you know, we're hoping that is also the case here. I mean, the dolphins here are the most well-studied population of dolphins in the world. So for us to start losing them would be, I mean, we would learn a lot, but it would be extremely unfortunate.
And if you could tell me again, you were saying you're preparing for the worst?
We are. I mean, we just, every day we try to get things as cleaned up as we can to go out and get more.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being red tide every year, 10 being wow, where do you think this one is?
12. I mean, yeah, on a scale from 1 to 10, we're definitely at a 10. I've been here 9 years and have been doing this for 19, so this is one of the most intense events like this that I've worked in my 19 years of doing this service.
And are you guys helpless?
I'm sorry?
Are you helpless? Is there anything you can do to combat this red tide, or anything you can do to help the animals?
Well, if we get to the animals when they're alive, we can help them. We've had some, you know, pretty awesome success stories with our rehab of sea turtles. And we've had a few adult large loggerhead males that have stranded. Some of those we've been able to get medically cleared in a month and back out there. So fortunately, those animals have gone north away from the red tide. Manatees, we don't rehab them here, but our partners have, you know, with SeaWorld and Miami's Aquarium that have been accepting a lot of those animals are able to do really great work with them. And again, I don't know of any live stranded dolphins that have happened in time and space, but I mean, we do have our dolphin hospital here and they also do great work. So
do you see an end in sight to this red tide, or do you think?
I mean, honestly, I don't know enough about red tides to hypothesize about that. I mean, right now I'm just trying to deal with what is being thrown up on the beach.
Just looking at these dolphins, the ones that I've seen, they look like they've been deceased for a while, so have they just been out there floating?
I think so. We had an unconfirmed report from a citizen. Well, I couldn't document it with a photograph. They didn't take one, but 5 miles offshore yesterday, he said he saw one floating and was really surprised, but didn't think about it until he got back and saw the press that you guys have all put out there saying that we've had so many. So, and he was like, oh, I should call and let them know, which, you know, was great information for us without photo documentation. I don't know if we can compare it to any of the ones we've gotten, but, you know, and that's the other thing I think that is really helpful, especially with animals that are alive in areas of red tide that people are concerned about. Getting us video, getting us good photo documentation is super helpful. The calls of it's dying doesn't tell us anything. What we need to know is, what are you seeing? Are you seeing the animal breathe every 3 to 5 minutes and flatten level in the water and just happen to be in an area of red tide? That animal's probably fine. It's not showing signs of distress. It's not doing those typical red tide toxicity behaviors. Just because it's there doesn't mean it needs immediate help. It doesn't hear help. It's or you know, 4 or 5 animals mating on nearshore waters. Those animals are fine. It's trying to figure out the ones that really do need us. So.
What are some of the signs you mentioned?
For manatees, it's a neurotoxin. So we see things like continuous barrel rolling. They will have facial tics. Sometimes they'll do full body seizures. They really just kind of almost seem like they're drunk in the water. I mean, it's almost like they can't figure out which way's up, so they're barrel rolling, I mean, it's a neurotoxin, so they're just a little discombobulated. So, and it's similar with turtles. They're very coordinated in the water when they're alive, and they get exposed to this stuff. So.
At this point, in the midst of where we are right now, what is your main concern Okay, dealing with all of this?
I'm main concern is the safety of our staff and volunteers and colleagues. You know, we're all working in strange conditions, and I mean, last night I was told the dolphin was 4.5 feet, so I took one person, and it was a 9-foot dolphin. So, you know, I called 3 other people to the beach at midnight to help us get the animal off because we couldn't do it alone. So that, I mean, that's a concern. Obviously, I'm concerned about our people being out there breathing this stuff. You know, you guys, I'm sure, have all been on the beaches. You know what it feels like. You know, and just trying to learn as much as we can. I mean, a lot of these things have been well documented, but I feel like the more information we learn, the more we can benefit the animals that are still out there alive.
Has this bloom taught you anything new
Has it taught me anything?
about red tide?
It's taught me about the resilience of all of our staff and volunteers and partners. You know, we're getting so many just kind people reaching out, asking if they can help, asking how they can help, what we need, you know. So it's taught me about the kindness of people like this.
Anything new about the red tide blooms?
No, I mean, I think this is very typical of what they've seen in the past as far as these intense blooms. And again, I'm not a red tide per se expert. You know, I focus on the animal, and then he creeps into the anatomy physiology expert. I'm not as much of a red tide expert. So, you know, I don't know what we can expect moving forward. You can ask some of our experts on Friday at 3.